wild. Good afternoon and welcome to the On the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Watson, and this is a fabulous Friday, and we are, for the first time ever, live streaming on YouTube. So we'll see what happens. Thanks for hanging in with me there today. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and we're going to get into Marjorie Taylor Greene being on The View. Very exciting times, and so we're just going to check and see. This is cool. Yeah. So this is all working. So I had a few questions about streaming to YouTube because some of the technical replay stuff with watching on the Rumble. But anyway, so we're gonna make it work. StreamYard, hang in there. I'm in your good graces. We have the Wi-Fi going. It looks like everything is great. So let's do this. Okay, you need Premium X to stream from there, but maybe that's in the cards. You also need at least 10 subscribers on Substack to go live from their app. But I'm not sure if you can connect StreamYard to Substack to go live. I'm not sure. Okay, so yes, so very much a lot going on. And the reason why we're going to watch Marjorie Taylor Greene today is because we are wondering, have we skipped timelines? Has a portal opened up? Or is this just, as XF says, the plan working through the plan? So we will seek to answer those questions. We may be left with more questions at the end. But if you missed Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View, it was momentous because she has never been on The View before, and they have always been such a huge critic of her, obviously, just for her entire career. She has been victim to so much stuff, and she would probably tell you that she maybe, well, I don't want to speak for her, but I mean, she, if we went back to the clips, I mean, I personally don't have any problems with her line of work. As in what she has advocated for, put out there in her marketing and messaging and the policies that she has stood on. But it seems that the media is taking a little bit of a different approach to her. And then we saw Richardson comment on her live stream about 2 days ago, not the one yesterday, but the day before, that she was actually complimenting Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she even suggested that this was maybe an off-ramp for MAGA. However, if after we watch this, we can decide if perhaps maybe, just speculating, that this might actually be an off-ramp for them. So without further ado, let's get to it. Let's see if our screen sharing works here, and we can go to the full broadcast here and just watch it together, shall we? Okay.
The people who live there and want to make it better for the people and not the party.
Yeah.
Make it better that's what I want.
The people that they represent.
For the people that they represent and even the people they don't represent in case they decide they want to go on a bigger platform.
Right.
It is really, you have to pay attention to what the people are saying. Because the people are the only ones. No one can, I know he thinks he can just write a thing and then he can stay forever.
Yeah.
That's not, he doesn't get to do that. You have to vote folks in. You have to vote folks in and you have to vote folks out. It is not up to them, it is up to us. And that's what I want to say. But put on a totally different mindset right now, though, because we want to mention the passing of two kind of iconic figures. The first, former Vice President Dick Cheney, who passed away at 84 years old. He was a guest here back in 2011.
Yeah.
And we're thinking of his daughter, Liz, and their entire family. We also lost three-time Oscar nominee Diane Ladd, star of movies like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Ramblin' Rose, and Wild at Heart. She was also in Ghost of Mississippi. That's a film that I did with her, and our hearts go out to her daughter, Laura Dern, and her family. Diane was 89, but you couldn't tell. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Today marks 2 historical milestones. We have officially tied the record for the longest U.S. government shutdown ever. And for the very first time on The View, we are joined by someone you might be surprised to see here. Please welcome Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Welcome to The View.
Thank you for having me.
It's you, Joy.
Oh, okay. I was so taken by your suit. So Trump is reportedly calling his MAGA cronies because they say that you're slamming Republicans too much. Well, you're taking my job. You're slamming Republicans a lot on topics like health care, the Epstein files. We know he's still your favorite president. I mean, Truman is mine. I dated him.
But I did not date Donald Trump, but I do love him.
You do love him, yeah.
Yes, I did.
All right, well, whatever. So when was the last time you spoke to him? And what's with the tension between the two of you? You know, you may love him, but he may not love you back right now.
Well, that's okay. I mean, Donald Trump, he usually yells at everybody, so we're all used to it. But he's the president of the United States, and here's something you all may not know about me. I think a lot of people on the left are learning that when I ran for Congress in 2020, I ran criticizing Republicans and Democrats equally, because I come from a working class family, ran a construction company for over 20 years, and I feel like the government has failed all of us. And it purely disgusts me. It really does. And I represent a district that is rural, manufacturing district, blue collar workers, and people have been crushed by decades of failure in Washington, D.C. And so I have no problem pointing fingers at everyone. And the worst thing that I just can't get over is we're not working right now. And I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House. And we should be at work. All the people sitting in this audience, they go to work every day. People at home watching this show, they go to work every day. Ladies, you go to work every day. The people on your set, and it is an embarrassment to me that we're not in session.
And getting paid.
I'm not taking a paycheck.
Good for you.
Exactly.
I'm not taking a paycheck.
Exactly. I think you're one of the only ones.
Well, like the air
I don't know the
controllers.
list. I think that should be a public list.
Yeah.
I think that's fair because our paychecks are taxpayer funded.
Correct.
However, I voted to fund the federal government on September 18th. I want all federal employees to be paid. I want all the programs to be funded. And I think that is our job, all of us together, Republicans and Democrats in the House and the Senate. And I'll look, I'm with women, so I feel very comfortable saying this. I'm really tired of the pissing contest in Washington, D.C. between the men. I really am.
Congresswoman, it's so nice to have you. And I watched you on Bill Maher, and I think you've been extremely eloquent in this shutdown in talking about the issue of Obamacare subsidies. I'm a Republican, too. We don't agree on everything, but we both agree we have to extend these subsidies at least for a year because you just can't pull the rug out from under people who are going to see their premiums skyrocket. You talked about your own family, how you'd be impacted, but I imagine many of the 700,000 constituents you represent. So what are you hearing from your constituents on this issue, and how do you see this shutdown ending?
My phone in my office, my district office in Washington, is ringing off the hook every single day. People are beyond outraged and they're terrified, but this has been going on for a long time. Democrats voted for the ACA in 2010. It went into effect in 2014. That was the year that we saw our health insurance policy for a family of 5 go from $800 a month to $2,400 a month. And I'll say this, we also watch health insurance companies drop out of the market, and healthcare costs have risen and risen and risen and risen. But I'm going to pick on Republicans. Republicans never fixed it. And then the ACA tax credits were passed in 2021, and there was a sunset date of the end of this year, and Republicans never made a plan for that. And I have been practically, I yelled at Mike Johnson last week on our GOP conference call. By the way, I'm missing the call today. It's going on right now. And I hope that Mike Johnson is finally giving a single health care policy because the country deserves it, and it shouldn't be a secret. And I shouldn't have to go into a skiff to go find our Republican health insurance plan.
Maybe there is no plan.
You know what? You want to know something? That, I believe, is the truth. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of bills, but there's no consensus.
Yeah.
And I think that's a failure. I do.
Well, I want to talk about MAGA voters who believed that the president made promises like lowering grocery prices on day one. Right now, grocery prices, inflation is up, soybean and cattle farmers are on the verge of bankruptcy. Millions have lost their food stamps and are about to lose their health care, while we're watching $40 billion to bail out Argentina. What is going on?
I don't know. I am so America first. I feel like I live it and breathe it. And that's my district, and that's what people want. They are so tired of their hard-earned tax dollars being sent overseas to foreign wars and foreign aid and foreign causes, while life in America just becomes more and more unaffordable. We want this money invested at home for our infrastructure, for programs, for our people, and most importantly, for my children's generation and their children and their children and generations to come. And I have to say, that's what I've campaigned on the entire time. Everybody's like, Marjorie Taylor Greene has changed. And I'm like, oh no, nothing has changed about me. I am staying absolutely 100% true to the people that voted for me and true to my district. And I am so angry when I drive around my district to all these beautiful little rural small towns. And there's manufacturing plants that are crumbling from decades of lost industry. Small businesses that got shuttered during COVID lockdowns and COVID shutdowns. And you want to know something else, Whoopi? So many veterans that went over and had to fight in some war that really had nothing to do with where they were from or their hometown, and their lives and families' lives have been so affected. So for me, I am unapologetically America first, and I'll do anything I can to work hard to save
Maybe you
this
should become
country.
a Democrat, Marjorie.
No, I'm not a Democrat. You want to know something? I'll say this. I think both parties have failed.
Yeah.
Both parties have
This
failed.
is worse.
Yeah.
He's worse, sorry, you know that.
No,
He's still your favorite president. He goes against everything you just said.
Look, I like Donald Trump. I fought for him to win. I'm very thankful for the secure border. I'm friends with Lake and Riley's mother. And we saw I serve on Homeland Security, over 12 million people came across our border, over 2 million gotaways. These are terrorists, cartels, all kinds of criminals. We don't know where they are in this country, and that affects all of us. That's not a political party
That's
thing.
one thing. There's so many other things to go after him on.
That you seem to disagree on. I've got to tell you, I'm sitting here just stumped. You know, because you are a very different person than I thought you were.
Well, you've only seen me in clips
Yes,
and headlines,
that is,
and that's not fair.
And that is true. Now, you've broken from the Republican Party in a number of issues, including, besides the shutdown, such as the war in Gaza, tariffs, Trump's desire to expand AI, foreign aid. But you've also had these clips highlighting the very public spats that you've had with your colleagues, where your behavior, some say, is just unbecoming for a congresswoman. And you're promoting conspiracy theories like QAnon in the past. But you seem to have grown past that. And I feel like I'm sitting next to a completely different Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why the change? Why the evolution?
Well, Sonny, it's
It's
the
like
first
you've
time
gone
you've
so
met me.
right. It's like you're on the left now. It's like this.
I'm not on the left, and we could talk about Russian collusion. That was a conspiracy theory and a lie. There's lies that come from both sides. Let's be really honest
Well,
with
the
one
Russians
another.
did try to affect the outcome of the
Russia
election.
collusion with Donald Trump was an absolute lie, and all the information's coming out. So both sides have had their lies, but here's where I'm at. All of this two-party fighting, you guys, you are all victims of the political industrial complex, and it's built on fundraising and fighting and toxic just garbage. And that exists all over social media, but that's not going to solve our problems in this country.
Would you say you don't believe in the QAnon conspiracies anymore?
Oh, I went over that a long time ago. I mean,
So you've changed.
Well, no, I haven't changed.
No.
I was a victim, just like you were, of media lies and stuff you read on social media. You all have attacked me many times on this show. Because of things that you read about me that weren't true.
Or clips we've seen.
Or clips you've seen
The
that
Jewish space
took me out of
lasers, what was
context.
that about?
No, but
Wait, hold
Not
up.
even true.
Let's
It's
take a
been-
second
yeah, it's
because
been
I'm
rebuffed.
getting the.
You gotta take a break.
I know. I see. We'll be back with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Stop with the defamation. You're going to have to do a retraction or whatever, make an announcement if you keep talking about the space lasers.
Welcome back. We're back with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Sarah has the next question.
Yes, you've been outspoken about releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files to the public, including the names of individuals involved in his sex trafficking network. Now, Democrats have been calling for that too, along with some of the other Republicans, but most of your party is pushing back and stalling. Why do you think that is? Because if President Trump is not implicated in there, what is exactly being protected here?
I have no idea, but it seems like very rich and powerful men are being protected. And I will sign anybody's resolution and I'll get on board with anyone's push to release those files, because this is about women, especially when they were teenagers, were victims of rape and sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein. And according to the victims, there's a list of men that they haven't released yet. They are afraid of lawsuits. They're afraid of it. And I said I would read the list for them on the House floor because I have speech and debate protection there. However, I also think that this is about all victims of human trafficking, children that are being molested or raped, any men and women that are held in some sort of sexual abuse situation. What does our government say to them if the government will not release the information on the most famous convicted pedophile in history? What is that message back? And I think it's horrendous. And then, you know what else? This has been a failure across administrations. It's not just this one. It was the Biden administration, then the Trump administration, then the Obama administration. It should have, all across, spanning this history, should have been released. And there's clearly powerful people are being
The
protected.
only one who really is caught is a woman on this, is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right. What does that say?
The irony of that, yeah.
But they say she's a monster, though.
Yeah.
She's a monster.
They hate her.
Comes in all
They
genders.
hate her.
Yes. No, thank you to you. And Thomas Massey's also been great on pushing on this issue.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you're notably America first, and you were even critical of President Trump's decision to take preemptive strikes on Iran. Right now, we're seeing these strikes on Venezuelan vessels in the Pacific, in the Caribbean, without congressional authorization. I think we both care about stopping the flow of illicit drugs. But do you think this is something the president can do unilaterally, or Congress needs to weigh in on?
Well, I just have to say, I have full faith and confidence in our great men and women in our military. And I believe that they have intel that we don't have, and they know what they're doing. However, I don't believe in regime change. I don't believe that we should be engaging in war, period. I'm totally against wars. I believe in fully protecting our borders and our people, but I don't think that we need to go out and attack other countries. I will say, though, fentanyl deaths increased in the past 5 years by 250% in my district alone. And drug overdose is devastating in a lot of, rural small towns that have lost a lot of economic opportunities. And so I am all for our Border Patrol and our military protecting our country and our people from drugs being smuggled into the country.
Now, Congresswoman, as we speak, there seems to be a significant divide on the right over whether to give a platform to noted white supremacist Nick Fuentes. Many prominent conservatives like Ben Shapiro, Senator Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, they've spoken out against amplifying him. You two have had a complicated relationship over the years, but at a moment when anti-Semitism is on the rise, where do you stand on this?
Well, first, I'm not anti-Semitic, but I am critical of the Israeli government.
Well, I just mean domestically speaking, because a lot of Nick Fuentes' words are, he hits every group, but very much just Jewish people in general, not Israel, Jewish people.
Well, number one, I don't have to agree with his words on attacking people like that. However, as a lawmaker, I think it's incredibly important that I defend our First Amendment for every single American. Of course, that does not apply to death threats or anything like that. However, I think the most important thing we can have as Americans is our free speech, and it can be speech that I either agree with or completely disagree with.
But it's something interesting you said. You said you're critical of the Israeli government, but you are not anti-Semitic. Most people now believe that if you criticize the Israeli government, you are anti-Semitic. Do you disagree with that?
Actually, I disagree with
Or I
what
should say many people.
I would say that tide has completely changed. I think many Americans today see the difference is you can love Jewish Americans and you
Right.
can love Jewish people
Correct.
and not be critical of people at all. And you
Correct.
I have the right to criticize a foreign government. And I can
Yes.
criticize as many of them as I want. And I can say October 7th was the worst thing and horrific, but I can equally say starving children and killing innocent people and children in Gaza is also horrible. And that's my opinion.
I'm wondering because, free speech is everything. And it feels like it's harder to do and to have in this country. Do you think it's a good idea for the military to be marching into our cities and towns right now because maybe people don't like the speech that they're hearing? How do we combat that and get back to going after the people who really are the problems?
Well, on free speech, I want to say that I think that all of us right here are doing a great job of exchanging our ideas and things that we believe in, and we're doing it in a very professional and kind way. And in my opinion, I think we need more of that in America. I really do. And a lot of people wanted me to come on the show and say nasty things and all of us to fight. They wanted all of us to fight.
Thank you for not doing that.
Oh my goodness, no. I didn't want
She's
to do
surrounded.
that.
It's like 5-1.
She could handle it, but she didn't want to.
No, I didn't want to do that today because I believe that people with powerful voices like myself and like you, and especially women to women, we need to pave a new path. This country, our beautiful country, our red, white, and blue flag is just being ripped to shreds. And I think it takes women of maturity to sew it back together. And I think that happens through free speech.
Well, once we come back, because you see him, more with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
After this, we'll go through some of the things that she's saying, letting it run.
Welcome back. We're back with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Sunny has the next question.
Thanks, Whoopi. So it's November 4th, it's Election Day, and there are some key races for governor in New Jersey and Virginia. The New York City mayoral race, they're garnering sort of nationwide attention. And as voters head to the polls, 59% of Americans disapprove of how President Trump is handling his job, according to an ABC News, Washington Post, Ipsos poll. So there are a couple. Do you think these elections will be a referendum on Trump's agenda and the Republican agenda? And with the GOP House majority being so slim already, are you worried about 2026? Because the Democrats only need 3 seats net to take over the House.
Right. Well, so in 2024, Kamala Harris won Virginia, Kamala Harris won New Jersey, and Kamala Harris won New York, of course. The Democrats, of course, won New York. So I think this election is actually a referendum on where is the Democrat Party. Looking with Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and I think it'll be interesting how it turns out today here, as well as those governor races.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't, if I lived here, I wouldn't vote for Andrew Cuomo. I was very much against, of course, all these women came out with accusations against him, which I found pretty disgusting. And then the COVID lockdowns and all the people's parents and grandparents who died in nursing homes.
Wait a second, you would vote for a Democratic Socialist?
I would vote for the Republican candidate.
Curtis
Who's that?
Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa?
Yes, yeah.
Well, he hasn't got.
That makes more sense, Joy.
You jumped to Mamdani.
Yeah, but as far as the House is concerned, historically, the majority party loses in the midterms. The only time it didn't happen was after 9/11. So I think as Republicans, and I say that as a Republican member of Congress, it's up to us to earn the people's vote and get rehired to be in the majority. And I very much want to do that.
So Marjorie, conservatives were criticizing you for coming on this show. I think you mentioned it already, that there were a few, and you called them, quote unquote, I believe this is you, mostly weak Republican men. So would you like to name names?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of paid social media influencers. And I found it very interesting that they were the MAGA accounts, but they're all paid. And they all attacked me when I announced I was coming to join you ladies on The View. And I think that's very weak and pathetic. But when I talk about weak Republican men, I'm pretty much talking oftentimes about the leadership in the House and the Senate. And they're not getting our agenda done. And I've got so many bills. I have a bill you guys in New York would love. It would end capital gains taxes on the sale of your primary home. So if you've owned a house for a long time,
We used to have that.
we need it back.
Yeah.
But I can't even get it to the floor for a vote without Mike Johnson approving it to come to the
Do
floor.
you think Mike Johnson should come on this show?
Absolutely, I think Mike Johnson.
I guarantee his answer would be, I've never heard of that show. I don't know what it is.
I know nothing.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you for coming on with us today. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Our thanks to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we will be right back.
All right, all right. So, what's the verdict, do y'all think? Do y'all think that we skip? These are the only choices, I guess, unless you have a different option, or a different theory, that we've jumped timelines, that some sort of portal has opened, or is this in fact the plan working through the plan? And I think that sort of the plan working through the plan sort of sometimes looks like the jumping of the timelines, and we're just not sure exactly. But yeah, so she really was given the opportunity to, it was all, very scripted with the questions and the criticisms. And then her answers were very poised and thought out, but definitely what she would say, not being, she was being forthright. So people might suggest that, she has changed even. That's why, I just thought that she nailed like all of the questions. I would like to have seen her respond to what Whoopi said about the military coming in and sort of addressing that ICE narrative and sort of the optics there and stuff. I think she could have shed some light on that there, on that one for the audience. But I do think that what she said was really important to her and she wanted to get that out. And I think that that is a really good message, is that we have far more invested interests as a people than we do with squabbling with each other and how important free speech is. And MAGA's gotten a bad rap. People on the internet have sort of, free speech on the internet is different than, this idea of discourse, and this was like Charlie Kirk, you can agree with him or disagree with him, but he was a strong proponent of free speech and bringing people together. Is that if you could sit and have dialogue with people, not just on the internet, not just in comment sections, but if you could actually sit face to face with someone and spend time with them, whether it be 10 minutes in a debate back and forth or a couple hours, if you have that, you can recognize that compassion. You can have compassion and empathy. You recognize that in others. And so you are far less likely to have that vitriol. And I think that I've heard that's what Charlie Kirk has said before, is that if I can reach out to somebody and spend time with someone and have that energetic exchange, I don't think he used those words, but if I can have that energetic exchange and I can present my ideas and we can spend time with each other. And I would even suggest spend time with ideas. And that is free speech, and that is the opportunity to the exchange of ideas. And we've seen what has happened with the censorship industrial complex and the censoring of Americans online on Twitter, through 2020, 2021. I mean, the president was taken off of Twitter. And then when bad ideas are not allowed to go back and forth, and they're allowed to sort of grow and not have that back and forth, it can have devastating results. And so watching and tracking what people on The View and the legacy media and Richardson and this anti-Trump messaging, right? This Democratic Party anti-Trump messaging that is unreflective of their own party, the Democratic Party, right? They're not reflective of it. And so they have quarantined their audience to really not trust, not just media in general, but not to trust any other sources but their narratives and this side of the story, which is playing on someone's own misconceptions and biases and fears. So it quarantined a demographic of people, right, the View audience, to not trust Trump, not trust Republicans, not trust MAGA, not trust anybody that's a non-Democrat, Biden, Kamala Harris voter. And the View, they like to pretend that they are, doing this dialogue, but back and forth with each other. But just having her on and just giving her the opportunity to speak exactly what she has been this whole time, without the defamation, without the slanting, without the accusations, and even with the QAnon. And so that's the thing, is that Sunny wanted to say, and I just think she handled it so well, is because Sunny wanted to be like, I feel like I'm sitting next to someone. And she's like, well, you don't even know me. You just know me from clips. And isn't that so true? And for her to say, so she called her out, and then for her to say, well, do you not believe in QAnon anymore? And she says, well, no, I've already gone over that and I haven't changed. And I was a victim to social media. Now, I think Richardson and maybe some others may have interpreted as though she was saying, well, I was a victim to social media, as though she was a victim of QAnon, right? Of the social media messaging and what she was seeing online. But I interpret it as though she was a victim of being projected in the wrong light, that there was defamation and slander against her, and she was being presented in a way through clips. So she hasn't changed. And she actually didn't say that she didn't even, I don't think she even really answered that question. Like, does she believe in that? Like, I think she just said that she was a victim of the attacks against her, and just the attacks of saying QAnon in general. So not speaking to, what Q is, or what actually it is, right? Or whatever QAnon is. It's just this conspiracy theory that she got portrayed in the media as, somebody who was unqualified, and made out to look so bad, regardless of whatever the truth is. So, which is what she's saying, which is like, we're America first. These are the policies that we these are the policies that we support and that we've always supported, that I've always supported. This is why I got into office, is to criticize both Republicans and Democrats. And that has been the hypocrisy that I have noticed just time and time again with tracking this messaging from people like The View, Blue Sky accounts, the Bill Kristol anti-Trumper, Lincoln Project, Richardson accounts, the Substack accounts, just tracking this messaging this whole time, is that they are unreflective of their own party. And that has been the hallmark of MAGA, America First, the Trump era, has been to criticize the Republican Party. So you're not doing anything special, Joy, by just criticizing the Republican Party. And in fact, I'm glad that it seems like possibly they're taking a turn now. But if they would have, and Richardson too, started criticizing their own party 4 or 5 years ago, then, who knows? Who knows what would have happened? I mean, you may not have your Trump problem in your eyes. I don't know. But just to let Biden go by this whole time, I mean, it is like they made their bed and we watched them lie in it. And they wanted to make this, and when I say they, I mean the same group of media messengers that I'm talking about. So you can just take your pick, the usual suspects, but the messaging is all pretty cookie cutter. We've seen the clips of with that viral video where it's like, on the democracy. Remember all the news anchors, they were saying it over and over again. So when Sunny said it's election day and this is a referendum, do you think this is a referendum on the president? And Marjorie Taylor Greene just said it exactly right. She's like, well, Kamala Harris won those 3 areas, those 3 states. So this seems to me like this is more reflective of where the Democratic Party is itself. And that was, I think, the correct thing to present, is because I get the blue wave, but typically, and she said it, is that typically the midterms is a referendum on the president. It typically flips, but these big races that are being publicized the most, especially the Mamdani one, they had it in the bag. I mean, nobody was surprised. Nobody expected it. The judges in Pennsylvania, nobody really expected anything different. It's hard to, the judges were retained. So it was like vote yes or no. So it's a difficult thing to switch, right? And so, I think that there were some, if you want to go into down ballot races, I mean, I think there were some where you would say, I think in Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro said something like, oh, we flipped, a commissioner seat or whatever it was. And like, yeah, you're probably going to have that. Like, you're probably going to have in some of these local races, you're going to flip. But then you would really have to track. I mean, I know that in our county, like, that wasn't the case. And in fact, a number of Republicans ran uncontested. So to say that it was a blue wave, I think, is leveraging, just like Richardson wants to leverage the success of the No Kings Revolution. I think she actually even included in her Facebook post. We can actually go look to that to confirm. And everybody getting out there. And on one hand, it is true that if local Democrat committees and people on the ground did not do activities, they would not probably be able to get the job done. And I'm sort of dancing around the election integrity and the concerns that there are with election transparency, with the machines and with ballots and with mail-in voting, early voting, registrations, IDs, all the issues that election integrity advocates and activists have been working on tirelessly over the last number of years. So there are still all of those concerns. And I think that obviously President Trump knows those things. And I think that in some areas, you just know, like in the city of Pittsburgh, it was, it's a blue area. In Philly, it's a blue area. So in some of these cases, you would not expect anything different. If the race was not substantial, if there wasn't a good candidate, if the general sense of the area is that it's not going to make a difference, or it doesn't matter, or that person hasn't really done that bad of a job or something, so it's interesting, what motivates people to go vote. I mean, generally for turnout in a non-presidential year in a primary, it's about 30% of registered voters. And that's just registered voters. That's not people that live there, right? That's not just residents. So all of that interesting to consider, but I'm glad that Marjorie Taylor Greene answered that question in the way that she did, because that is, I think, the truth. And Richardson, and we can maybe check in on one of her videos, but she was going to enlighten us on this political moment that of where the political realignment is happening. And I think we even just one of our last shows here with XF was called about the political realignment. I think actually was part in the title. So yeah, the whole joke about the Richardson critique is that they do this, which I have called MAGA face. I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but where they project onto the present moment what they're seeing, as though MAGA didn't already do it. That they really project their out of touch, non-understanding about what MAGA is, what MAGA did, what Trump did. I mean, and even for Joy to be like, oh wow, like we believe in all those things. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying the things that Democrats think that they support. And even Joy was like, oh, you should become a Democrat then. It's like, are you so out of touch with your party and what people think about your party and what has actually been expressed through your party, right? Because what has the Democrats have been in office and have had the same people in office, right? And, Nancy Pelosi's saying that she's retiring, but they only retire if they're not going to be able to win. And so instead of them holding their own party accountable, which is what people have been doing with the Republican Party for the last number of years, this is where we are. So then Marjorie Taylor Greene's talking about the things that, veterans, and about the suicide rate and the drug addiction rate in our rural communities, and criticizing the hierarchies of power, speaking truth to power. She's criticizing, the men in these political positions, which is true. I mean, it's a lot of it is men. And right now she'll like, I don't know. Do you guys remember when McCarthy was Speaker of the House? Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is not novel. Like she's been calling out the Speaker of the House. She's been calling out Republicans her whole career. And and then for Sunny to be like, seems like you're on the left now. Huh? Like, what? And this is sort of just a crazy, funny moment that we find ourselves in, because we have been, again, tracking this and doing shows on this about how Trump and MAGA and America First has been, that the so-called left, the liberals have taken all of their opportunity and all the promises that they made to the old left, and they've squandered it. And they've wrung it out that they have nothing left. They have no ideas. They have no energy. They have no momentum, and they have no opportunity. They have to take it. They have to steal it from the Democratic Socialists, obviously. I bet you Richardson's actually trying to downplay that, really. They have to steal it from MAGA and be like, we have to make America great again. Richardson actually said, why are we giving, and Whoopi even said it, why are we giving billions of dollars to Argentina when people in our own country need help? Oh, you mean like all the money and the support and the weapons that we gave to Ukraine? That was all in the beginning, so it's like they cannot say positive things about President Trump. They can't align on core issues that their constituency actually believes. There's this huge disconnect between what they actually believe, what they think that they're getting, and that which is reflected back in them. They have this real distorted relationship with power because they have this Democratic Party that they have not been able to break through. You see a little bit of it because we went over a video a couple shows ago with Norm Eisen and the kid from Texas, O'Rourke, because we were showing, or we were at least speculating on the interelite conflict of the Democratic Party and sort of and you can see that again with the Mamdani win, okay, and what they want that to be, and that'll be a whole different show, and we can maybe, I don't know, get XF on here or somebody. He would be great to talk to about this and sort of just throw some ideas around about what that may be, because that's a little bit different, but specific, but different. And so, yeah, so they have not been able to hold their own party accountable, and they haven't been able to do what MAGA has already done. They don't have a Trump. They don't have, and they want to go like that Jennifer Welch, horrible lady who we have deconstructed and watched on the show and done our media literacy checkpoints on her as well. But she wants to talk about like, oh, it's the billionaires, the billionaires that got Trump elected. Even Mamdani wants to be like the billionaires that got Trump elected. While she gets her picture taken with Obama, like, what do you think? Are you new to politics? People don't think that Trump is something that he's not. People don't think that he's not a tycoon. That's why he got hired, so it's not about not having an elite. It's about working with an elite, but it's not about saying we're going to stick it to the billionaires. Like, that marketing doesn't work because people know that there's billionaires behind AOC and Bernie Sanders in their fuck the oligarch or fight the oligarchy tour. Right? Like, nobody thinks that Mamdani was like a grassroots candidate, right? I mean, some people probably do. But mayor of New York, like, that's almost irrelevant, if not actually irrelevant to like being able to apply to any other sort of situations when it comes to politics. So it like got real dark outside, it seems. It's freezing. I'm freezing. And the outlet that I use for my heater is the same as the outlet that I use for my computer. Okay. So we're in a little bit of a conflict there. But yeah, so this is what we're seeing. So what did you guys think about the show with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Do you think that she nailed it? Do you think it's sort of telling that they're having her on now and letting her speak? This has been what and the government's been shut down. So this gives her perfect opportunity to make her rounds and go on CNN. She was actually on CNN with Caitlin Collins, doing some stuff there saying about like, grocery prices are still not good. Like, so this doesn't, but it's so interesting because it's interesting, but it's we know this, that she doesn't need to talk shit on President Trump. So they want to be like, well, grocery prices aren't that good. And, gas prices aren't that good. And, what we need to get people, healthcare isn't going good right now. She doesn't need to disavow Trump in order to support what it is that she's saying. And that's been her thing this whole time. So she's really doing this dissemination of information to this audience that has been isolated and quarantined. So I see that as a very positive thing. It's great. It gives me hope, inspiration, and excitement to be able to continue having these conversations and looking at these things. So let's see, we're at 48 minutes or so. Let's see if we want to go to maybe we can go to a little bit of the Hag. I'm seriously shivering. I'm so freaking cold, guys. I did a show, I think it was like last year, because it was when the weather started getting cold again. And I had my coat on and I was like, I'm so cold. And somebody wrote in the comments, like, turn your heat on or get a heater. It's true. It's not that I don't, it's just that it's radiant heat and it's, it's still, I'm just thin boned or whatever they call it. That's not going to age well. Let's go to Richardson and we'll do like another maybe 20 minutes or so. I cannot believe how freaking dark it got here. Okay. Oh gosh. So I don't know. Should we do the one where she talks about Marjorie Taylor Greene in the off ramp? Because here's what I want to say about that is that she's presenting it. Well, really, actually, maybe I'll just say it and then that'll be the end of it. Actually, let me see if I can turn this light on over here, if that'll help. My goodness. You know what else it is? It's that I have, I guess, maybe a fast metabolism. I don't know. But when I get excited, no, it has to do with like your parasympathetic nervous system when you sweat. If you're giving like a presentation, and that's basically what happens to me is I get so excited if I'm like talking about something, and then my body's like, we need to protect her, and it starts sweating, and then it gets cold, and all of the blood and energy goes to my internal organs, to my heart and everything, to keep me here for you. So that's also, I think, why I'm cold, is because I'm excited, and you would think like that would make me sweat, but no, with the parasympathetic thing, it's because you're sweating. It's not that you're like sweating like you just worked out. It's like you're sweating under your armpits, like the whole thing with the sweating through your shirt and all the ads for the I would not do this, but there is a thing where you can like close your sweat glands, like if you have an actual issue. Can you imagine? Okay. The tangents that we go on. Okay. So I just wanted to say that I don't think we're going to watch that whole clip. Let's just watch this and we'll do it in real time. We'll do about 15 minutes with Richardson's thing that she did yesterday, because the one that she did the day before about Marjorie Taylor Greene was about like, she complimented her. She said positive things about it. And I thought that was great. And then she's like, well, The View is this, if you've never heard of it. It's like, I'm sure your audience knows what The View is. She said, yeah, this is an off-ramp, I think. This is an off-ramp for them, as in like, oh, this is a way out for MAGA or something. And like, on one hand, I can see that, but then I think that this is like their off-ramp. Like, this gives them an opportunity to save face, and it gives them permission to check their own party. It gives them permission to lead to follow her lead, which is, we don't need to spit vitriol at each other. You guys don't need to defame me. You don't need to just show little clips of me to your audience. You can actually tell them exactly what and let me speak, which is what they did, which I'm just really thankful for. The CNN thing, you don't have to lie to your audience about what it is that we're doing. And that has been just the hypocrisy this whole time, but also just lying about what Trump's doing and lying about what MAGA is and what's going on, and I'm not saying that this is the holier than thou perspective, like not at all. Just though recognizing the hypocrisy and checking my own biases and being like, where's my hypocrisy? Where is my blind spot? But just looking at this, and the biggest criticism that I have of this marketing and this media is that they are unreflective of their own party, as opposed to why Trump got elected. Like it's been this thing the whole time. So without watching that video, let's just watch her last video that she did yesterday, because she talks about Mamdani. I haven't watched this. We're going to watch it in real time together. Now, I might start and stop this. I might just stop this. Let's just try and screen share here appropriately. Screen share. Yeah, I don't mind this. I think this works here like this. I think we've been doing okay with it. Gosh, it just got so dark. It looks like it's nighttime now. Well, and then with the daylight savings time, they really are. It's really just absurd. It's crazy. It's crazy what they do, how it affects you, and how it just gets so dark so easily. But it's 1:30 here, and it's just so dark and gloomy. But I have to get more lights, I suppose, now at this point. Now that I see this. All right, let's go. The one and only.
Ought to be Friday, and it's not. It's only Thursday, and I think partly that's because we're on this stupid. I don't know if it's daylight savings time or not daylight savings time, but it gets dark at 4, whatever, or 4:30, whatever that means here in Maine, and that always.
Dude, see, look at us. Look at us. We are just vibing, girl. We are vibing. Okay. I think we're getting through. There, I just moved the light over a little bit. I think that helps. Okay. Let's just go.
Throws me off of everything as well. So there's a lot going on, but let me start to unpack a lot of that, because I think I'm going to throw a lot of detail at you today, because what we are seeing, I think, is a really dramatic rethinking of the American political situation in this moment, but also of the American political parties. Now, we do this periodically in American history, and I'm going to walk you through a little of this, because at some level, I think people are both missing the big picture, but also paying too much attention to the little details of it in the scheme of things. But let's start with what happened on Tuesday. Now, if you remember, I talked to you Tuesday, those of you who are here on Tuesday, and said, no matter what happens, we're going to get up the next day and continue. And to that I hold, we're going to do that. But what happened on Tuesday was a dramatic blowout for the Democrats. And it was not only in a few key races, and it was not only in Democratic dominated states, which is what a lot of Republicans are trying to say right now. It was all across the country. It was from the smallest races in towns to the really dramatic races like the governorship of New Jersey and of Virginia, and the retention of 3 Supreme Court seats in Pennsylvania, and the California's Proposition 50, which passed by a margin of almost 2-1, Maine retaining its right to absentee voting. I mean, it was just everywhere. And that's really significant in a number of different ways. So it's significant, first of all, and what people are paying attention to is it's significant in its rebuke of the Trump administration. Because if you remember, the Trump administration took office with fewer than half of American voters having supported it. Trump won the election.
Hold on. Fewer than half of American voters supporting it. So, and I can actually, oh wait, hold on one second real quick. Okay, I love you. Okay. My kid just got home. I'm excited, but let's keep going. Okay. So this is, so I do chronicle things and write things out on Telegram. That is the main channel that I use to do non-podcast writings. I use Substack as well. But one of the things that I was recently reminded of is that they have, the Blue Anon conspiracy that they have said is that Trump actually got more people voted not for Trump than voted for Trump. Because if you combine the Kamala Harris votes with the other people, the independent candidates, it actually is more than the numbers of votes that Trump got, even though Trump overtly won the Electoral College. He overtly won the populist vote, the popular vote. They still want to run with this. And if you actually do a Google search and you say, did Trump have more people not vote for him than vote for him? If you actually look that up, you'll see how some mainstream outlets actually did like a fact check on that. And that these X accounts, these anti-Trump X accounts, were saying that, we're pushing that. And there was actually this, they were actually, again, debunking it, that is not in fact true. And I'll also remind us that Richardson had actually said back after the election that they were counting people that sat it out and didn't vote for anybody as non-Trump voters. Like, when in history would we consider that to be even a talking point, like a point, like a data point? People that sat it out actually voted against Trump. They voted against Trump because they didn't vote at all. They're using that. They're trying to make Trump look like he's not popular, even though by their measure, he won the popular vote. You see? So it doesn't make any sense. It's not a good argument. So what she even just said here again is that Trump is acting like he has this mandate. And here, let's listen again to what she says specifically, because it's just wild. It's just not true. It's not presenting the information truthfully.
But that's because right to absentee voting. I mean, it was just everywhere. And that's really significant in a number of different ways. So it's significant first of all, and what people are paying attention to is it's significant in its rebuke of the Trump administration. Because if you remember, the Trump administration took office with fewer than half of American voters having supported it. Trump won the election, but that's because the vote was divided. I mean, I don't mean to suggest if there had not been third-party people that it might not have gone the same way it did. You don't really know because of, if you have lots of people voting third party, you don't know which way they would have jumped if those people hadn't been in the race. They might have voted for Vice President Kamala Harris. They might have voted for Trump. We don't know that. But we do know that more people voted for somebody other than Trump than voted for him. And yet, despite that, normally when a politician...
Okay. So she's just saying that he doesn't... Okay, here. She actually is going to go into it, I think, here, where she talks about... Here.
Takes office knowing that the support there has just been fractional. What they try and do is they try and reach out to people on the other side and say, I'm going to represent you even though you didn't vote for me. I'm proud to do it, and so on and so forth. There's kind of a...
Okay, so her argument is that Trump is saying that he's had this mandate. She would probably say it's Project 2025 or something when it's actually Agenda 47. She's saying they have this mandate, but he doesn't, because more people actually voted for somebody else than voted for him. I mean, that to me is just, in Richardson's word, bonkers. And so then she's insinuating that because it was so close, that he shouldn't act like he has this mandate.
Pattern to it, and you saw it last week in the victory speech by Zoran Mamdani of the New York City mayoral race. His speech was really pretty classic. I barely squeaked over the finish line here. Therefore, I am going to include everybody going forward. And I could go through a whole bunch of races.
How is Trump not doing that? How is he ran on these items, and he's doing the items that he ran on. Who is he not representing? He's lowering drug prices. He just did the thing yesterday where he's lowering drug prices. He is still working together with other countries with the tariffs. And I know that there's different opinions about the things with the tariffs, and they're going to have to shake out. And unfortunately, it's hard times in some areas. But inevitably, there are benefits that outweigh the risks. And so that's what none of his policies are affecting people negatively. You want to make the argument in the case of the military or ICE. But other than that perception that people think that they're neighbors and that they're next or whatever, other than that, I mean, you could say like the gender care stuff. I mean, that has happened. But most people don't want the government funding those surgeries. And most people are against the mutilation of children for those reasons. So I would actually say that that's like most people, right? So anyway, this idea that, or this notion that Trump is not representing all Americans, and that Mamdani, in just his speech saying, I just squeaked through, so I'm going to represent everybody, is a little ridiculous, don't you think?
Cases like that where you have seen that. But Trump did not do that. What they said from the beginning was that they had a mandate to do whatever they wanted. And the real issue for them, as I said before the election, is they were promising everything to everyone. And it was not going to prove to be possible to be both wet and dry at the same time. That is, you couldn't both say we're going to raise tariffs and turn around and say we're going to lower prices, because by definition, tariffs raise prices, right? So they were facing a problem anyway, but then they really went overboard on Project 2025, on the attacks on undocumented and now documented. And
what did they do that was overboard on Project 2025? What? The most unlikable part of Project 2025, which isn't even, there's not even that. What is the thing about like abortions is a huge issue, right? So that's the thing if you want to talk about like, but Trump has not talked at all about taking away a woman's right to an abortion. He has literally not talked about it. So what part of, aside from the things that you want to, the defamation that you want to do against Stephen Miller, about him having an ideology that is so prominent. And like we watched one of the last shows we did where we put together how she's saying one thing and then she's making this conclusion and she's skipping over an entire, just because he said this or did this, or I think it was like in an email, he implied that he read this book or whatever, that now this is the conclusion. And it's this, about his ideology. So where in project, what is the biggest part about that? Do you have a problem with that you see on a policy level, Project 2025 being implemented? I'm just curious. Documented or undocumented, now documented people, there's just a lot of bad information out there when it comes to what ICE is doing and what ICE is not doing.
Even U.S. citizens, documented and undocumented immigrants and U.S. citizens, producing these videos of, tear gassing children and driving off with a child in a car and grabbing people off the streets. And I mean, you've seen the videos, and they're important, but they've done that at the same time that Trump's economic policies have in fact delivered inflation and a much slower economy. People don't like the deportations that they're seeing. They don't like the attacks that they're seeing. They didn't like the cuts to the government that we got from the Department of Government Efficiency and then later on from Russell Vought at the Office of Management and Budget. There's sort of been a perfect storm here of actions that the administration claimed were part of its mandate, but that pretty clearly a lot of Americans who voted for Trump did not think they were voting for. And you can see that they were falling away from that, both by the polls that show him at the lowest place he's ever been, including in his first term, but also with the number of people who jumped on board the Trump train in 2024. A lot of podcasters, for example, who have gone quite publicly out and said, I was duped. I shouldn't have done this. And I'm really unhappy with where we are. So what you saw on Tuesday.
I'm sorry, the MAGA influencers that Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about, who now are coming out saying I was duped by Trump. Yeah. So we talk about that here on this show as well, that the internet is a big place. And that there are a ton of incentives to not just grift, but have big social media platforms and be able to leverage, to attract a huge audience, to leverage that. And then, be able to flip whenever they want. But that is not there is some of that. That's not a good representation, though, about what I think most people think. I will say that I do sense that people that voted for Trump knew that it wasn't going to happen quickly and it wasn't going to come easily. And that this is a long game, but we do need to see some sort of response or outcome on a local level, on an economic level, that we're able to, again, see the results and some fruit. And that is really important. The wars and the keeping us out of wars, untangling US involvement in other countries is so crucial. And there's a lot of narrative stuff going on. We have Charlie Kirk. We have the Epstein, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said, is that, when it comes to human trafficking and the missing children and the child trafficking crisis that we have in the United States, that everybody has been made aware of. And Bobby Kennedy had just come out and said about how I think it was him that was talking about the missing children from the Biden administration. I mean, we watched the testimony of the, was it Mayorkas? Not Mayorkas. It was the other guy, the Tom Homan of the Biden administration, that they lost 300,000 children, meaning they gave these children to people that were supposed to be their caretakers, and immigrant children, kids that came from Mexico or just came across the border. And then they gave them to these sponsors, and then they followed up with them, and they did not answer their phone calls. So when they say they lost these children, that's what they mean. And he said, like, we don't have to ensure, like, after the third phone call, like, they don't have to go to their house and ensure that they are being protected. Like, no one is advocating or protecting these children. And I think it's so excellent that Marjorie Taylor Greene brought that up to Joy, because it's something that we can all agree on. And it's something that that's the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, is because even people within their own party try and blow the horn about it. You have whistleblowers, you have people that work at the border, you have social workers, you have judges, and it is a huge problem. And it has to do with the cartels, and it has to do with buying elections and things. It's a whole thing. And a lot of people woke up to this with, yes, marketing, social media access and marketing and messaging. People woke up to this, in 2020. And then it was like the Save the Children tagline, but then it was like, oh, well, then there's these NGOs, and then it's like, the trafficking in Ukraine, and then it's like the Clinton Foundation, and then it's like the whole, just the relationship of all of these organizations. And, but just that the whistleblower testimony itself, supports that one child is too many. Like, right. So it's disgust. It's just devastating. And human trafficking of any sort just should not be on our watch. Right. And that this idea that people are involved in this or not, turning a blind eye to it or even contributing to it, that has to do with the hierarchies of power. And so it is very hypocritical to see people try and chastise and criticize the Trump administration for closing the borders and for protecting our citizens and protecting our children and hunting these people down. Kash Patel, whatever, right? The things that we could say, but the cases that they have, the investigations that they have been working on, and that they have come forth and said that these are the things that they're working on. That is a huge part of the Trump administration and what people want to see, and I think we could all agree on. So to make these claims about ICE and fearmonger people into thinking that, it's this devastating thing where they have no authority to go in and pull people from their homes and look what they're doing. It's all connected. It's all connected. So it's very misleading. Richardson may not know that. She may not be looking at it from that perspective. She may not be thinking about that the Biden administration let in all of these people, let in all of these children. And, she may be, again, what Marjorie Taylor Greene was saying, a victim of the social media and things you see online. She may just think that that's not true. She may think that that's not real and not true. And, I'm not pulling up screenshots right here, but anybody can really do their own research. And, I guess I can put some things on the channel, but, do your own research about, the government and State Department provided documents, or the DOJ documents provided about these cases, and that, again, that testimony, that hearing, and you can judge for yourself. You can just think about it. And yes, we don't want to see American citizens, right? But how is that happening more than not? And don't you understand the greater picture? Don't you see what's happening here? Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about just the abuse of victims. And, that's something that we should all be able to come and agree on and advocate for a better solution. But I can see, if you don't believe that that's what the Trump administration is doing, if you don't believe that that's what, Pam Bondi or the DOJ is doing, and if you don't have it to compare to, if you weren't paying attention in the Obama administration, if you weren't paying attention in the Biden administration, you don't understand these points. So it really is an information war. It really is that this disconnect between where people get their information, who they trust, who they're listening to, right? And the stories that are being told.
It was the very visceral repudiation of what the Trump administration has been doing. And in the districts that went by far more points than people expected them to toward the Democrats, what you saw actually was not just Democrats voting, not just Republicans voting for Democrats, but even MAGA crossing the line and saying, we're going to vote against the Trump administration.
Nobody said that. Nobody did that. No Republicans, no MAGA voted for Democrats in this election. Please tell me who. I mean, I can speculate, you can speculate, but she sure as shit is speculating, because she's saying, MAGA influencers are saying I'm done with Trump because he won't release the Epstein files, which is fine. To not include any nuance and just want to, get your social media points and get your money from X, by posting about this because it's a highly controversial topic, and you want to grift off of that, and you want to make just provocative statements or whatever, just to get back and forth or whatever. That's fine. But that doesn't translate into, MAGA actually fucking voted for Democrats this time around. Shut the fuck. That did not happen. I mean, that's crazy to even suggest it that way. You might say hey, I wonder if these MAGA people on X, I wonder if people that are actually upset about the Epstein files, or if they are actually upset about it, they are not, but to say that they voted for Democrats this time around, especially since we've already established that these were blue strongholds anyway, for the most part, that doesn't make any sense.
And I want to talk, before I talk about what that's going to mean, because that's the first way in which that election was important, I want to really call out what happened there, because I'm not sure enough people are calling it out. So yes, people were mad and all the things I just talked about. But what I think we saw on Tuesday was the fruits of what you all are doing. People showing up at the local level. They're showing up and they're running for office for school board. They're showing up and they're running for town offices. They're making it clear to people why a state Supreme Court race matters. They're making sure people have good information. And this is what has been missing in the United States now for decades. Grassroots movements that truly inform people of what is happening. And the information that you can get from nonpartisan producers to say, hey, look, this is what's really going on. And that grasping of our democracy by ordinary people, I think, is what you saw. And that's something, by the way, that the radical right developed in the 1960s and really ran with. So they could do things like get someone like Rush Limbaugh to get his followers to go complain about something. And it would look as if it were a really popular plan, when in fact it wasn't. But
okay. So, okay. So what does she think MAGA is? And she says, the radical right started this in the 1960s, got somebody like, she's Rush Limbaugh, by the way, okay, in this story. So she, though, is saying that the radical right started this in the 1960s. They got people like Rush Limbaugh. I mean, Obama was in office for 8 years, right? And then Trump was in office for 4 years. And then Biden was in office for 4 years. And now Trump's in office again. Okay, so the pendulum is swinging. Okay, so to act like oh, this is something that this is a grasp, this is something that we haven't seen in a really long time. That's, as Michael Moore said, the vote for Trump in 2016 was the biggest FU, right? So she's missing the time period of this whole, of like how we got to this point, and then acting as though if you give people nonpartisan information,
There was nothing comparable on the Democratic side. And certainly not on the left side, which is different than the Democrats. And I think you're starting to see that now, because there are so many people now working to get out the message of what's really going on in our government. And I'm really proud of that. It was really, people did it. That was.
She's really proud of that. I told you, because she's the Rush Limbaugh in the story. So, but what did people do, dude? So what did people do? Like in Virginia, it was what was her name? She was a Black woman who ran against another woman who is white, but the Democrats it was going to be a Democrat win anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, the race issue is only an issue when the Democrats want to make it the issue. And then in New Jersey, and then in New York, I just don't see the support for what it is that she's saying. I don't see there being anything phenomenal about. I mean, and in Pennsylvania, that's a unique situation too. Is that it's a hard thing, because the judges, are going to determine the abortion issue, and most people are at the polls, the Pew research polling or the statistics that we've gone over here on this show, at least over the years, is that the 15-week mark is where most people find themselves being okay with an abortion up until then. So the majority, I think it's 65% of Americans are at that 15-week mark. So most Americans are not in favor of a complete ban. In some states, there's been like the 6-week mark, which is where their constituents are at, which is most popular for some areas. And so the judges are going to be, and our judges, they didn't make good choices about the pandemic. And I agree with that. The one judge, however, and we've watched this before with the Commonwealth Court case, with holding the feet to the fire of the governor's Department of Health, whenever they tried to circumvent the law back in 2021 and try and keep kids in masks. So the judges, actually, this one particular woman who was up for re-election, I mean, we watched the testimony, the hearings of her actually holding this person's feet to the fire. So I will say, in that case, for me, I don't like what they did with, it's a tough situation though, and I'm just one person. Did I vote to retain them? No. But there are things that drive and motivate people to the polls. And those are specific in some areas. And it's, again, we're not taking into consideration the election integrity piece, the concerns with the process, the ability to be able to make it transparent, and how can we have processes in place where we can audit this effectively and efficiently, and ensure that every person's voice is heard, right? Every person's vote counts, right? And votes aren't being counted that aren't supposed to be, and dead people aren't voting, and double votes and voter rolls and all that stuff. It's really hard to get people off the voter rolls that have died, right? We've seen people's testimonies on that. So anyway, so this is a lot of nuance, and she certainly doesn't go into this at all with her audience. But we are well aware of it. And so I don't think that you can, again, make this sort of broad statement and say like, well, this was people, this was actually Trump voters that actually came out and voted for Democrats. I mean, listen, you may not like what Trump's doing. You may be like, fuck, this sucks. Like, he needs to be doing more, right? He needs to be doing more things. And in fact, some people think he's not doing enough with the ICE stuff, by the way, right? I mean, so some people think he's not doing enough. But people think that people want to see the filibuster removed. They want to see Marjorie Taylor Greene's policies put through. They want to see, positive change. They want to see what they voted for. And so, but they're not going to then go out and vote for a Democrat. So I don't know all the details of these past different elections on various states. I think some of these things are just the way that they are. It's really hard to break into it unless you have a shit ton of money that you want to invest into it. But typically they're not going to try and flip a red or a blue state that's overtly, like, I don't even know what happened in that Virginia race with the governor. Like, I don't know, being on the ground or whatever, if the GOP does not support that candidate, and even then they're cooked. And so we've seen that time and time again with our own state, putting up candidates that have real issues, and then not funding them, and then not supporting them, like not trying, right? So we see that again, time and time again. And there's so many different there's so many different campaigns and different elections and different things. And so again, it can't be painted over with a broad brush and lull.
That was ordinary people carrying the weight of democracy. And that's the second way in which what happened on Tuesday is really, really important. Really? Because it shows a dramatic shift in who is getting involved in politics and where they are getting their information, so that they understand things like what's going on with the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, about which I'll tell you more in a little bit.
She loves saying out the whole word. Instead of saying SNAP, she likes the Supplemental Nutritional Affordable Program, the SNAP program. Okay, so I pulled up an old video of hers that I took a screenshot, and it was from December, I think it was, of last year. And maybe I'll include this in my notes here, but feel free to join me on Substack to see more of like written stuff, and on the Telegram channel as well. And I'll have the link. And so she actually included in one of her live streams that she was talking about that they did, like after the election, that a certain percentage of people, like who they voted for, depending upon where they got their information from. And so she was speaking about this huge crisis for them, about people who got their information from social media. Depending upon where they got their information from, they voted for Trump resoundingly. And she had the different percentages of like, if they just watched cable TV, or if they just watched like alternative news, but people that were asked, they don't watch anything and they voted for Trump or something. So she was saying like people that get their news from, essentially her and like legacy media, the official sources or whatever, they voted for Kamala Harris. So we just need to get our information out there. And when people have the right information and good information, meaning she's just talking about her information, then they vote accordingly. Which, and AOC actually tapped into this a little bit at the time too, because she had done maybe like a TikTok video or a social media video about like, I really want to know where Trump supporters get their information from. Like, I really want to know. And because they realize that that they have lost the narrative, and that they have lost the attention, and that they have to work for it now, that they have to work for it, that they have to earn it, that they have to get it back, in a way. And so and they feel as though she was making the connection that if as long as we control the narrative, basically, people will vote for our candidate. And when people are getting their information from people that is not us, they're voting for the other candidate. And so she's trying to make the claim now that, well, looks like we're getting our information out there, and so people are voting for Democrats. But really, if you literally did a actual analysis and you took all the information from all of the races, I don't think that you could necessarily come to the conclusion that anything has really changed either way, or happened overtly, or anything to where you see people now getting more involved than. So the Charlie Kirk strategy, or something that Turning Point has done, which has worked, I guess, there's a lot of discrepancy and controversy over Scott Pressler and all the early voting action, and that's another show for a different day. I probably agree with a lot of the concerns that you would have. I share them as well. But one of the things that was effective was the low propensity voter for Republicans, is that it wasn't about trying to get Democrats to switch to Republican, or it wasn't about, it was about going into, or trying to get blue areas to move to red. It was about going into red areas and getting more people registered to vote. So people that just weren't registered, that were red, that would have voted red. It's just about getting them to go out and to vote. And so maybe that's what she's implying, is that it's about getting low propensity Democrat voters, which I sense that over the last number of years that there aren't shadow secret Democrat voters that aren't voting, because they have the big data analytics. They know how most people feel on most things. That's why Trump is, doing popular things. It's the populace, right? So to suggest that there are actually people who are actually Democrats that aren't voting, we need to get them more involved. It's like, no, I mean, from what I've seen just on a local level and just looking at this in different pockets, I mean, I have like a very lackadaisical isn't the word. I have a very informal model, just looking at, again, different things, maybe on a state level, on a national level. I haven't seen any people who are, Democrats that realize that they're Democrats now or something, like what we do see perhaps are people who voted for Trump who are like feeling disenfranchised, right? Or that they're not seeing what they voted for in a way, right? Or they may have that issue. They may have the Israel issue. They may have the Epstein issue. Like they may not be into, again, like the AI and the surveillance stuff and the the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about. They're not happy about the healthcare. They're not. We want to see more of a change, an economic change. And so, but those people are not, Trump won because it was non-political people getting engaged. Okay. So I don't see non-political people getting engaged and advocating for Democrats, if that makes sense. Like it's only on the other side, because if you voted for Trump, you're able to speak truth to the power of the elite establishment. And we don't see that happening like on the Democratic Party. We see like different factions of it, maybe like the Anna Gasparian type of like anti-imperialism stuff. But we don't see them rallying around Democrats to, try and go through the political process. We don't see anybody energized by that. So it would behoove everybody. And that's why, again, I'm optimistic about seeing Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View. I hope it's not just momentarily because the government is shut down, but that it would behoove everybody to find the things, because Trump is actually doing things that have never been done before, like the cut of the pharmaceutical prices. He is doing things. I mean, the tariffs, but like also get it, like people can focus on different things, like the David Sachs and the AI and the technology, like whatever area it is that you're interested in, do the research on those areas. Like there's a lot of things that are happening with the Trump administration. And if we keep pointing fingers at, like, this is a time for opportunity, I guess is what I'm saying. And you don't have to like Trump or want Trump, but he's doing things that are unprecedented, and he's bringing on people that don't always all agree. Like this is an opportunity for people that are engaged in politics to not look at this as though they need to fight with the Trump administration. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't see any new blood on the Democrat side. Again, it's just my anecdotal empirical evidence, but I don't see any new blood on the Democratic Party side. I see people who want to vote for Mamdani as a Democratic socialist, but I don't think that he's representative of the Democratic Party. But maybe here in the video, she's going to say that he inevitably is representative of the direction of that they want to take it. It's very experimental. So we'll see a lot of different components, like a ton of different components. You have the religious and the ethnicity, and you have the communist piece, and you have the free busing and the trans funding of the. There's so many things. It's like a whole big project, right? So we'll see. It's almost like a because they don't have any good ideas. They don't have any opportunities, and Trump is giving everybody an opportunity. If you are interested in any of these industries, any of these areas, there is a lot of energy and momentum on making changes that the Democratic Party has told their constituents that they would do. Okay. And so I think that everybody should, get in touch with their representatives, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, but going in there and trying to talk shit on the Trump administration, is not the point, And you could say, well, Nikki, you guys didn't say this about the Biden administration. It's because nobody on the Democrat side was willing to acknowledge the fact that, like, first of all, the 2020, everybody, it's not apples to apples. And I try and do that too for me. Like, where's my bias? Where's my and where am I being hypocritical? Like, I'm always trying to look at this on both sides. And I mean, am I asking people to do something that, like, I wasn't able to do? Was I too critical of the Biden? No, because it didn't stop me from engaging in these ideas. We've been doing this show for almost 3 years now, I guess at this point. Just talking about these ideas and trying to work through this and trying to look at all of the angles and the messaging and what is actually happening in the real world versus what we're told is happening, right? And what is possible. What is the federal government supposed to do? And and detangling us from other countries, is really important. And some people want the USAID, and they really we don't agree on where that money is being spent, although it's been clear and printed of where all the USAID money has been spent on, like, social programs in other countries. So yeah, I think that there's much more than we can agree than disagree on. And I don't think that it has to be an either or thing where we have to, like, stop the Trump administration from doing something, or that like people are now going to vote for Democrats, because no, people do not think Democrats are going to help things either.
Understand what's going on, and they see how to push back against it. And that's something that we haven't seen in our politics for a very long time. Indeed, I would say probably in the way that it seems to be developing now.
This is hilarious. This is just hilarious because, right? Like, we haven't seen this in a really long time. Like, are you kidding me?
Since the second civil rights movement, since the 1960s. And that's a really, really big deal. So you have both the short term Trump's in trouble, And the longer term, we're seeing a really big change here. And then there's a third change.
You better hope Trump's not in trouble, by the way.
Change related probably to both, but certainly to the
say.
second. And that's a generational change where, and this has nothing to do with anything that you might be suspecting I mean by this. Often you get a period, not often, occasionally you get a period in American history where one generation, for one reason or another, has had an outsized influence on politics. And there comes a time when they move off stage, either because they're older, either, the world has changed, whatever. And when that happens, new voices arise. And when those new voices arise, they begin to articulate a new kind of politics. And I think we're absolutely seeing that. And we're seeing that in this moment where you're getting all these new voices and they're talking about America.
Who? Mamdani? What new voices are you talking about? What generation? What are you talking about? I mean, really, like these new voices, what are you talking about? They're
American issues really differently than my generation did. Now, one of the things that you've seen with that over, especially this election, but you've seen it over the last year or so, lots of people are picking their favorites and they're attacking others and they're saying, well, I can't put up with that character because of X and I can't put up with that person because of Y, but boy, this character is the best person ever. And I would caution you against doing that, in the sense that what we're seeing right now are new ideas. They're new people, they're new ideas, and maybe they're going to end up changing the world, and maybe in a year you will not remember their names. What's important right now is not the individuals, it's their ideas. It's what they're throwing into the mix. And as they throw those ideas into the mix, you're going to see people start to articulate them in ways that resonate with more and more people.
What is she insinuating? Does anybody have any suggestions? I'm going to have to watch that again. I'm not going to put us through that to have to watch that again right now. But what is she insinuating? She's saying, I caution you against getting too attached essentially to certain people because you may see them in a year from now. You may not. Who is she talking about? Mamdani? Who is she talking about? James Tallarico? Like, who is she talking about? It's about the ideas. What is she talking about and saying? Is she talking? Yeah, I don't know.
And that's when you can start picking whoever your person is. That person might be out there, but before you start thinking about who's going to walk off with a movement or who's going to walk off with a presidency, we still have 3 full years to go before we have to pick a president. And we're not really going to start to winnow down who those characters are going to be for at least a year. And, every time I see one of these freaking articles about, so-and-so is positioning themselves for the presidency, it's like, stop it. Just stop it. That comes from a book that came out in the 1960s with the idea that you can't be a president unless, your great-great-grandfather, I'm exaggerating, but, that it takes years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And we got to prep, we got to have the right attorney general. We got, that's a genre. That's a system that drives the news. We don't have to pay attention to that. And I would urge you at this point not to worry overwhelmingly about whether your guy got in or your guy didn't get in, and whether some people are freaking out about the new New York City mayor, Mamdani, there we go, or saying he's the best thing since sliced bread. Maybe. We don't know. He got elected by a little bit over 50%. Maybe he's the face of the future. Maybe he's not. But his ideas are really important. And the new coalition that he formed is really important because it's involved new people in the process. So that's the other really big change here is you see a generational change. And that is largely a reflection of age, but it's not always. I mean, you can have really much older people speaking for a younger group, and really vice versa. So, but there just feels like there's an age difference here, where you're getting new ideas from people who came up through the ranks differently than people in my generation. That's all to the good. by the way, because from that is what we have gotten all of our progressive eras. All right, so if
Dude, what do you think about that? They are split. They are split on this. They are very upset because a lot of Democrats voted for Cuomo. And Mamdani just squeaked through. Dude, wow. This is, yeah, I think we're going to have to rewatch this. You're not going to. Dude, we are only in 13 minutes into this is 45 minutes and we're learning so much. We're calculating so much. This is excellent. That was I think she really was trying to tell us something there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think that they're having a little bit of a conflict here. This is fascinating. Okay, let's just spend a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap it up. This was a long one.
that's the case, if things have changed, what's happened since? Because there's a real political problem now for the Republicans. They have two major political problems right now. One I've talked about before and may not have time to talk about again today, and that's the rise of Nazi language and admiration for Adolf Hitler within the youth in their movement. And this is causing a dramatic split between the establishment Republicans who want tax cuts and deregulation and are happy to play footsie with people who want cultural and social hierarchies reestablished, but they didn't want to go full Nazi, and they're pushing back against that other group, and that's splitting the movement, the Republican.
Dude, she's so talking about internet culture. I love it. Oh my God, this is so interesting. I need to let that sit in a little bit. So she's really, Dinesh D'Souza and, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens, and like just the influencer culture. And but she cannot speak to the actual thing, which is what Marjorie Taylor Greene was speaking to, which is the fact that if you criticize a foreign government, let's say Israel, that doesn't mean that you're criticizing the people that live there or that are associated with that country, right? And that's the divide. And that's where Marjorie Taylor Greene is advocating for a popular position, which she expressed on The View. She said, I actually think this is the popular position, is that we can criticize this government without criticizing the people. And, that's what she's advocating for. And that's where the actual divide is, because people want to see America first. Now, if you hadn't seen Nick Fuentes at all, and she's gone on about the groupies and stuff. And Nick Fuentes did go to Boston University, and I don't know if they maybe knew each other. I have no idea. I'm ran into each other because I think it might be different colleges. Because she's a professor at Boston University, and he's maybe, I think, from the area, or he went to Boston University or went to Boston College, so it may not actually even be the same thing. But if you never saw Nick Fuentes' stuff, but you saw him on the Tucker Carlson show, aside from the one comment that he made, I think it was about Stalin, which could be interpreted different ways, actually. He was overtly talking about, he was overtly differentiating between criticizing Israel and loving Jewish people. I think he even said my publicist is Jewish or something like that. He wanted to he presented in a way that was now I don't want to get canceled for this, but I think a lot of people that want to criticize him for certain reasons can interpret the Tucker video in general however they want. But let's just look at what the story is that she's saying Nazi, dude, which is so interesting, because that's not really the issue, right? Because she can't talk about the actual issues. So she's going to say it like this. Meanwhile, like, you know, the Azov battalion and the fucking actual Nazis in Ukraine, nobody had a problem, like, you know, with the government. They took, you know, they were supporting the, you know, they were changing the designation of the Azov battalion, and then we were just like supporting this whole thing. So it's just strange, you know, it's just weird. It's not, it seems like we, you know, we hold standards over here, but not over here, sort of a thing. But then if you look at Tucker Carlson, and he's saying, well, I found out, he was on the Megyn Kelly show, and he said, well, you know, Fuentes said things that I didn't like, he said about my dad. And then I found out that he is the most popular, and I don't know. And there's just a lot of different things. It's definitely, I don't know what my opinion is on it. Enough of it. I don't know what my opinion is on it enough to be able to develop it here. You know, with Charlie Kirk and then the feud, you know, because I don't know these people in real life. So I'm just taking it with a grain of salt, just like you would. You know, I'm at arm's length. So I'm just trying to look at it from a narrative perspective, what people are saying, and then, you know, how that was related, especially with, you know, the support that the Trump administration had going into the Trump or going into the election. You know, those things are interesting to me, like Elon, you know, campaigning for Trump, getting, you know, the support that is behind Donald Trump, right? And the characters that are coming out in support of him, or that were at that time, you know, and then just, and I didn't know the feud between Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes. Like, I didn't even know any of that stuff. I wasn't following it. I didn't even know, I really just didn't know what Nick Fuentes's brand was. I just thought that he, like, it just didn't, I kind of got a little whiff of it, that he was like at January 6th, and that he had a platform at one point, and that he, like, I just really, like, he just was not ever somebody that I was familiar with, I guess. And then for him to come out and say, you know, and then I think it really hit me, his persona was kind of coming out a little bit more before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. But then after that, it became so obvious that he then, like, sort of changed a little bit in how he was presenting himself. And then, because he was on Dave Smith, he became, like, he was being, you know, interviewed with Dave Smith, and just having that dialogue with Dave Smith, I guess is what I'm saying. And then with Tucker, and yeah, just trying to understand, maybe now in hindsight's 2020, but for me, this is more of a, like, looking back, because I didn't have a good frame of reference moving through it. You know, this is all just looking at these characters now. And I thought Marjorie Taylor Greene handled that question well in The View. And then for Richardson to be like, oh, there's a split in their party, but not talking about she's just using Fuentes as a way to use the word Nazi, basically, because she's been talking about neo-Nazis and stuff since, you know, trying to act like, so, but now she's saying that it's, you know, a split in the party.
Pretty dramatically right now. If you're watching the Federalist Society, people are quitting, people are threatening to fire people. One person got fired, and there's this big fight about, should the Republican Party try and incorporate the Nick Fuenteses, the Groypers, the far right white nationalists, or should they push those people out? And they kind of need them for votes. So who knows what's going to happen there. But the other way in which the Republicans are in a real, what my mother would have called a Mel of a Hess right now, is that, remember all that redistricting they did in places like Texas? In order to redistrict Texas, to turn 5 Democratic-dominated districts into Republican-dominated districts, they had to weaken Republican districts. that seemed like a lovely idea when they could rely on the 2024 coalition Trump had hammered together, which relied very heavily on Hispanic voters who had shifted toward Trump in 2024. Tuesday's election showed that Hispanic voters have not only turned back to where they were before Trump nailed that coalition together, they have turned against him even more than they were against him in 2020, likely because of the deportations.
I don't know if that's true.
And they've just redivided everything, which means that in a true blowout blue wave election, they might have just handed a bunch of seats to the Democrats. And if you don't think they're nervous about that right now, you want to look at what they're starting to say about the other redistricting plans they had in mind, where already states are saying, maybe that wasn't said, maybe we don't really want to do that. So they've got that problem right there. But they also have another big problem going forward in that, as I say, Trump's big the reason that lawmakers went along with whatever he wanted was because he could turn out voters. He could win elections. He never really had coattails. So this was always a little, and that means he could never really drag people along behind him. But it was pretty clear, yes, Tuesday, that people were voting against Donald Trump and against Trumpism. So ever since then, you've seen a real shift in American politics. And because of that, things look very unsettled. So the last 3 days have been just ping, 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 ping everywhere as people are trying to reboot. So one of the things you have seen is the Republican Party, especially as it is represented by Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, has all of a sudden been out there saying, you know what Republicans are all about? We're about affordability. Like all this, have you seen the word affordability everywhere? All of a sudden, like affordability. You saw Donald Trump going out.
I actually think that she is projecting. I mean, I know that that's like the whole thing, but I think that she's projecting because I think that the Democrats are trying to figure this out too. I think that there's a lot of back and forth about it. And then you do have influencers online talking about it being a blue wave and doing that whole grift thing too. And there's always been rifts in the Trump movement, right? I mean, this isn't new. I mean, and they've always tried to, the Democratic Party operatives have always tried to break up and use this to their benefit. And I think that in some cases that has happened. But that's because it's a big tent party. Not everybody's on the same page about everything. Not everybody agrees about election integrity. I've said this before about Charlie Kirk again in Turning Point and, the get out the vote or not get out the vote, the early vote action or whatever it is with Scott. I mean, there's just, if we learned anything, it was that not everybody was on the same page. And the election integrity movement is a great example of it. And not everybody's on, I'm trying to think of a different example, but that is just the one that I'm most familiar with, I suppose. And now they're going to use Epstein is another example, but I mean, Charlie Kirk is another really good example. People are not happy about the way that the information is being presented to the public about it. Like, people want justice for Charlie. They don't want to see this get just like swept under the rug and justice not be served. And it's like, having to address all of the concerns and Candace Owens has a really big platform and she is talking things and she's within her right to do that. And what are her good points and who's going to address that? And, there are these loose ends that it would be nice if they were tied up, I suppose. So, but what I do think that she's saying is that she's projecting because she's seeing the Democrat Party continuously try to figure out who they are. And, they want to, like, my county has a Democratic committee just countywide, and they posted on their Facebook page that that the county went red or the county went blue. And it's like, that's not true. And then it was like, donate now. And then it was like the Act Blue, thing, like donate now. So it's all about them. It's all about fundraising for them. It's all about getting out the vote. It's all about the next election. It's not about actually putting policies into place that are actually going to help people. Like, if they were going to do anything, they would have done it by now. People want to see massive change. People want to see things get better. And if we can't even agree on what that is, because it's not transgender surgeries, like that's not the thing that's going to make things get better. It's that we want to see grocery prices decrease. And I actually do think that there have been, I do think that grocery prices have decreased actually, in some cases. But we want to see that happen. And we want to see, we want to see businesses go into empty storefronts. I mean, we want to see those things happen. I mean, and we also would like to see gas prices go down. That would be a really big one. We want to see these things get better. And, so the Democrats, though, the crime is just not going to be good. I mean, like, for example, like in the city of Pittsburgh, for example, they just elected a Democrat mayor, of course. And if he's able to turn things around to where the public morale is better and that people actually see results, then that's great. And that's going to, the bearing fruit of that is going to be great. But I think that what she is talking about is that the Democrats are still trying to figure out who they are, what support they have, and the elites that are behind them. And, how can they, maybe save face and get on board with what Trump's doing. But also then there's a whole other group of people that just want to destroy Donald Trump and his agenda and his voters and, make things continue to be worse. They want to continue with their globalist NATO agenda, and they want to hold out until the election in 2028, and they want to do that. So yeah, just a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap it up.
Out there and saying that it's cheaper in 2025 to buy Thanksgiving dinner at Walmart than it was in 2024, only to be corrected to say, well, yes, but in 2024, there were 21 items in that meal. And in 2025, there are 15. And in 2024, they were brand named items. And in 2025, they are Walmart brand items. There's this real attempt to say, please pay no attention to what your grocery bill looks like. Everything really is much cheaper than it was. And this is what we really care about. We care about healthcare, which is, it's all just mind-boggling, considering that they're insisting that they won't negotiate over the extension of the premium tax credits that make healthcare affordable for people on the Affordable Care Act marketplace. But you see that.
Yeah, we definitely disagree on the healthcare marketplace. I understand it. I mean, healthcare needs to be redone. And, it takes, and people have already started to do their own, pay for it out of pocket and create relationships with their medical providers to come up with a plan that works for them. Maybe paying out of pocket and, how much it would cost to have like a catastrophic plan. And then, but healthcare is a really big business, right? And the bureaucracy of that and the paying into that and all the government employees that are on the contracted health insurance with the I forget the word I'm looking for, consortiums. Yeah. So the subsidy and the subsidies and all that stuff. So, well, on that note, it is still Fabulous Friday. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. This was a long one. We got through a lot. We chugged through it, but we did it. And thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will.
Real attempt to pivot and say, never pay.
I hope Richardson has a nice weekend too. Okay. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.